Hey there, we're Tali and Ophira Edut, identical twins and astrologers. Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, where we bring the stars down to Earth. Hey everyone, it's Tali from the AstroTwins with this week's weekly horoscope update for you. For the week of February 24th to March 2nd, I want to take a minute to just heave a collective sigh of relief because as of Sunday night, Sunday, February 23rd, Mars, the warmongering planet, ended this excruciating retrograde that began back on December 6th. Now, I'm not one who likes to be superstitious about retrogrades. Sometimes I think that there are these real opportunity periods for us to dig deeper and see what's under the hood. But this one felt like it lived up to the villainous reputation that retrogrades have. Look, retrogrades are unavoidable. We have some more coming up in March. We have Mercury turning retrograde from March 15th until April 7th. And before that, even at the end of this week, Venus, the planet of love and harmony, is going retrograde, right? Just what we needed. And I'll be talking about that in depth today. But at least for the next 5 days, Monday through Friday, we can all kind of just breathe a little bit. Mars retrograde can be a bit of a terror every time it happens, which is once every 18 to 24 months. All of the outer planets, by the way, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, all turn retrograde every single year for nearly half the year. Jupiter for 4 months and the rest of them for 5 months. Venus every 18 months. Mars, like I said, basically every year and a half to 2 years. And then Mercury happens 3 times a year. There's no way around it. The sun and moon don't go retrograde, but they're a part of our lives. It's just we don't live in a society or a culture or even an economy that makes space for us to do what retrogrades are best for, which are to review, reflect, to really slow down, rewind, and take the time to process. We don't stop. We can't stop, won't stop. And that's why retrogrades, in my opinion, feel so bumpy. We need a retrograde red tent. It's like that timeout moment. Maybe one day if the matriarchy returns, that'll happen. In the meanwhile, I am not sad to see Mars retrograde go. And if you want to hear more about it, Ophi and I did a podcast last week. Last week's pod was all about Mars retrograde and all the ways that it pretty much brought us everyone from Luigi Mangione to the LA wildfires to Elon Musk on a tear. And, I don't know if that's necessarily going to stop the insanity from happening as we move forward this week, but I do think that just some of the outright cruel that has reared up during Mars retrograde over the last 11 weeks may get some comeuppance at last. I don't know. I mean, things are going crazy. I just saw that New York City Mayor Eric Adams is suing the Trump administration. Trump is suing MSNBC. Everyone's in lawsuit mode right now, which is interesting because we're coming out of the South Node, the karmic South Node in Libra, where it was from July 17th of 2023 to just this past January 11th of 2025, which means that suppression on the legal system is perhaps starting to lift. Also, do you have in its early phases of Aquarius, its early days of this 20-year tour, which is definitely putting a stifling energy on democracy and hope. The center-right party won in the German elections, but the far-right party, the AfD, was not too far behind. They came in second in those elections, and they're definitely spinning up some neo-Nazi rhetoric, and getting support from JD Vance and Elon Musk. So we're seeing what appears to be the suppression of freedom and liberation for all, but it ain't over till it's over with Pluto, and Pluto ain't over for a long time. So we're going to be talking about what's happening down here on Earth for all of us, personally and collectively on the podcast. But on a personal note, I am happy that some of that frenetic, intense Mars retrograde energy is over. It's been hard to relax or feel at home and feel that sense of safety. Mars is in Cancer, which is actually one of the worst places for it to be if you look at the concept of essential dignities, which basically says every planet has a couple of favorite signs where it's exalted or in rulership, and a couple least favorite signs where it's either in detriment, opposite where it is, where its native home is, or in fall, meaning it's just super uncomfortable there. Well, Mars is in fall in Cancer. It's exalted. Its favorite position is Cancer's opposite sign of Capricorn, because Mars is go, 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 and Capricorn is build, build, build. Well, Cancer is super sensitive, and Mars is like this nunchuck cutting through the air. Mars in Cancer is already hard enough. Mars retrograde in Cancer, Lord help us all. Insensitivity chips, maybe that's something that Elon Musk and his Neuralink wants to install in all our brains, but good luck, babe. Speaking of good luck, babe, Pisces chaperone is worth turning on again and getting back into that vibe, because we have a Pisces new moon this week. On Thursday, we have the new moon, and it's kind of a big deal because there are actually 5 other heavenly bodies that are also going to be in Pisces. Mercury, which rules communication, the sun, which is how we shine in the world, how we energize ourselves, Saturn, which is structure, discipline, Neptune, which is our dreams and the things we can fall prey to illusion with or have porous boundaries with, and then the karmic south node, which has been in Pisces since January 11th for this 18-month tour that it's on now. So all of those are, in this chorus together with the new moon. Pisces is a sign of empathy, compassion, but also illusions. There's places where we may see people restoring their empathy or becoming incredibly gullible. Most likely, if, the days of this year keep going as they have been so far, it'll be a heady mix of both. Pisces is a tricky sign. It's symbolized by 2 fish swimming in opposite direction, one going up towards the heavens and one going down to hell, basically. So when we're in Pisces season, which we're in now, it started February 18th and it goes until March 19th this year. So the new moon comes pretty early this year, and a new moon is like a chance to reboot the energy of the sign. This new moon in Pisces is one of the most spiritually awakening days of the year, and it's a chance to both escape from things that feel unpleasant in our lives, but also to tap into divine inspiration, to start a spiritual practice, a meditation practice, to reconnect to your spirituality. I just went to hot yoga myself for the first time in over a year, and I used to do it a few times a week, and it felt so good to be back, and just the sweating, the detoxing. Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, it rules the feet, but it also rules all elimination organs, and the skin is the largest elimination organ. Of course, the skin is associated with other signs too, but sweating out, detoxing, just hydrating yourself. This is the time to treat yourself to a really nice Hydro Flask or some kind of glass water bottle or metal water bottle, something that you like carrying around with you. and to start flushing out your system. Get to the sauna or get in some water and get things moving. Walk by water, reflect by water, soak in the tub. I mean, it sounds kind of basic, but actually, during a Pisces new moon, you want to be in an energy that's as fluid as possible, but in a healing and healthy way. If you've thought about doing some kind of a cleanse or a dietary detox, this new moon might be a good time to kickstart it, or within a couple weeks of the new moon, even though we have some retrogrades, those are also good times for kind of processing things that are stuck. If you're not afraid of colon hydrotherapy, things like that, highly recommended. Or lymphatic drainage, reflexology, Pisces rules the feet. All of those ways that you can heal yourself. Also, the energetic body. I did a chakra clearing meditation the other night when I couldn't sleep. And it was like, I forgot how effective that could be at calming me down and getting me to sleep. I realized I actually had corded myself to Elon Musk and Donald Trump by just doom scrolling and what did they do now? And I had created these energetic cords to them. So if you find that you've been thinking about someone a lot with anger or rage, I recommend doing a visualization where you start at your root chakra and picture yourself kind of going in and gently sort of spinning out all the cords that are stuck in there. My favorite meditation is from Jeffrey Allen. I do his meditation thanks to my friend Camille's recommendation. Shout out to Camille. He has this concept of a rose that you bring in. You bring this rose in to clean out each chakra from your root chakra on up to the crown one by one. And then you cleanse it, like you kind of clean it out with the rose. Then you pop the rose and the energy just goes out and it's no longer in you. I really like that visualization of something as lovely as a rose to clean out that energy with something beautiful. And I swear I've felt a lot better, but it's so easy, I'm noticing now, to get corded by thinking and fearing and giving attention to those things. And yet we can't not look. So my recommendation is to use this new moon to do some energetic clearing. And if you don't feel like you could do that for yourself, try a guided meditation or book a session with an energy healer, because they really can help you with that if you find a good one. You might also want to take a look at boundaries and codependence. Dear friend of ours, Terry Cole, has a great book out called Too Much about high functioning codependency, meaning you're somebody who's like a superwoman, super person. You do it all. You appear to have it all together, but what's driving you is that feeling of no one being there for you. So you auto accommodate, you rush in with help and support with, before anyone has even asked for it, and whether or not they even want it. It's almost like that compulsive caretaking that actually creates a stressful energy in the environment, even though you're just trying to help. I also love Nedra Glover Tawwab's Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself is another great book. She's an awesome workbook with that too. Terry Cole also has a book called Boundary Boss. It's interesting. Codependence isn't only something that shows up as this like need to be needed. It can also, as I'm learning, show up in terms of a deep sense of perfectionism. And one of the things I've learned recently is that when you're codependent, which I definitely am, I was born a twin, for God's sake. I didn't even have my own womb. You tend to isolate. And I've been noticing how often, being a writer, media maker, you do wind up spending quite a bit more time alone than people think you do. But there are moments where I've found myself isolating when I've had an opportunity to go out and be around people. If I can't show up with everything I've got, then I better just stay home. So notice if you might be doing that yourself during a Pisces new moon, especially one with 5 other heavenly bodies in Pisces, we may get confused about what it actually means to set a boundary. I love how Terry Cole, in Too Much, she describes a boundary as like a fence around the house that is you. And it shows people where your house and your property line is, and you can choose to let them in or not. And that's a really great analogy. It's not like an iron fortress. It's a gate, it's a fence, it's a door. It's like, okay, come in or don't come in. And sometimes the boundary blurring energy of Pisces can cause us to give more than maybe we're comfortable with. So these are all things to kind of examine in your own life during this new moon. Where might you be overgiving? Where might you be saying yes when you haven't even given yourself a chance to look at whether or not that works, or how that's going to impact your schedule, or you're pushing yourself when maybe you don't need to, and you could find other ways to join forces with people that don't require one of the pitfalls of Pisces, which is sacrifice. Good things to look at. March comes in on Saturday, and it already kicks it off with a retrograde. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and values, is shifting into reverse, which happens every 18 months, every 564 days. And Venus's retrograde is different than other planets. It's a really interesting phenomenon what happens. So during a Venus retrograde, Venus shifts from being an evening star to a morning star, meaning in the beginning of the retrograde, Venus is still visible in the evening sky, in the night sky. And then Venus makes a conjunction with the sun and basically disappears for about 8 days, and then comes back again as what's called a morning star, appearing right before dawn in the sky. The Greeks, ancient Greeks, actually used to think that Venus was 2 different planets. So evening star Venus has the name Hesperus, which means west, because you could see Venus in the western sky. And morning star Venus is Phosphorus, the bringer of light. Little fun fact, it was actually Pythagoras, the mathematician, who was one of the people who realized that Venus was one and the same. I think it was like 5th century AD. So the Pythagorean theorem that you know that we've learned in geometry, well, Pythagoras was also an astrologer, as was Galileo. So got some street cred there in the astrology and math world. This time, Venus and the Sun, their conjunction is happening on March 22nd, and that's when we get our invisible Venus, and Venus will appear about 8 days later. Now, I like to think of it metaphorically. So a Venus retrograde is a chance to put old love stories to bed, write the end, and then rewrite a new chapter, like a dawning of a new chapter. We like to refer to a Venus retrograde as a romance reset, because it is kind of a chance to reset, reconfigure, and revise your entire approach to love. Now, the sign that Venus retrograde is in also colors the whole picture. We like to think of the planets as the actors in the movie of your life. Venus is definitely the romantic lead in your life. And the sign that it's in is the costume it's wearing. So Venus has been in Aries, the adventurer, the superhero, the trailblazer, since February 4th. So we're already in this Venus and Aries cycle. Now, I told you about the essential dignities with Mars being in fall in Cancer. Venus is also unhappy in Aries. Aries is its detriment position, meaning it's opposite the sign that it's a domicile at home in. Venus is the ruler of Libra. Aries is the opposite sign of Libra. Where Venus is free-flowing and luxuriating, Aries is fast-paced and dynamic. So there's a mismatch there and an imbalance that has to happen. Venus focuses on the other. Aries is all about the self. So this is a self-love stir fry going on, but Venus will actually back up through two signs. On March 27th, Venus goes back into Pisces, where it was in January of this year. Venus will be backing up through the very first sign, Aries, which is all about self love, self care, my boundaries. What do I need? What are my values? How can I get myself to feeling whole so that I can show up as my best self in love and relationships? Where do I need more space? Where do I need to work on that codependence so that I'm not overgiving and exhausting and being resentful? That's going to be especially important when Venus backs up into the very last sign of the zodiac, Pisces, from March 27th until April 12th. The good news is that Venus is actually exalted in Pisces. So that's its absolute favorite place to be. So that should take a little bit of the edge off. But the cadence of this is actually pretty cool because while we're putting old love stories to bed, the evening star phase wind down, Venus is in Aries, which is what am I bringing? What's my responsibility? What's my side of the street that needs cleaning up, as they say? And then when it's in that morning star wake up, we're like still reviewing and still going over like, how am I prone to romanticizing? Where do I fall prey to illusions? Where have I put on the love goggles because I'm enjoying all this attention and flattery, but it might not actually be real? So where do we delude ourselves? We are going to have to deal with that as we wake up with this morning star Venus. Once Venus turns direct on April 12th, it'll be a lot easier to tell a royal from a toad. We'll have to be careful from March 27th to April 12th, but I do like that Venus is in a power position, one that is about compassion and heart opening. Now, exes and unfinished business absolutely shows up a lot during a Venus retrograde. And why I'm saying March, I need to prepare you guys for that, is because Venus isn't the only inner planet, personal planet, the ones before Jupiter, that's going retrograde in March and April. Mercury, from March 15th until April 7th, will also be retrograde and in the same signs. The first sign, Aries, from March 15th to the 29th. So basically 2 days after Venus slips back into Pisces, Mercury does too. In addition to Mercury being retrograde, March also gives us eclipse season. March 14th and March 29th, we have the two eclipses, and the 2 weeks in between there are what we call the eclipse corridor. We'll talk a lot more about that every week, but those 2 weeks tend to be full of ups and downs and intense surprises. So March is really a doozy of a month, one where we're going to need to harness all of the Pisces new moon tips that I suggested: healthy boundaries, self-care, dealing with our spiritual selves, having a meditation practice, centering ourselves, having a creative outlet, surrounding ourselves with supportive, compassionate people. Work the Pisces new moon, pull it to you this week because you are going to need it in March. Sunday, Mercury, which rules our friends and our social energy, is actually connecting to Neptune in Pisces, which is a great time to meet soul friends and kindred spirits. The sun will also be squaring Jupiter in Gemini, so that's a chance to get out of your usual domain of things and go maybe try out and dabble in some different groups. Challenge yourself. I like a square. That's when two planets hit a 90-degree angle, because sometimes it forces you to go in a different direction that you normally wouldn't. So challenge yourself. You don't have to go so far afield from what feels normal and natural to you, but push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and you might discover an activity that becomes one of your new favorite stretch goals for 2025. Well, that's what we've got for this week. But I am taking heart in the fact that Mars is direct in Cancer, Cancer being the sign of the nurturer, the divine feminine, which lives in all genders. And it is in Cancer direct until April 18th. So grassroots organizing with a nurturing, loving energy. Will we see the return of compassion? Will we see compassionate people and communities mobilizing? It's already starting to happen. Town halls have been getting kind of spicy over the last week with people speaking up and having their local representatives be held accountable. So don't give up on that. Just remember everything happens in cycles, and cycles are part of nature and part of life. But we are always co-creating with the universe. So even if you do need to retreat a bit, which we do from time to time, especially during Pisces season, stay connected to the collective in ways that you can, because this world needs kindness and compassion more than ever. I'll be back next week with more astro forecasts. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please make sure to follow us. And if you really love it, give us a 5-star review. It makes a difference and helps us keep this baby rolling along. As always, thanks for listening. You can discover more of your star power at astrocell.com, and be sure to follow us on social at AstroTwins. Join us next time for more cosmic fun.